Hello, hello, hello. Black Bane Samson here today. How's everyone doing? It is 12:40 p.m. and February 10th, 2019. How's everybody's weekend going? It's Sunday. Sunday. So, I opened up a tab and Mozilla, and I know some of you people are like, why are you using Mozilla? Well, just something I've been using for a number of years. But anyhow, when you open a new tab, a set of links are given for news articles that Mozilla, like, quote unquote, randomly picks from their very biased echo chamber that they pick from. And like almost all the time, their articles are always left-leaning in some way, extreme on those sides. But what I found particularly interesting was the actual artwork. I don't know what they're going for with this red arrow, and I tried looking up, really quickly what this meaning is, but there was nothing behind it. So it must be something relatively new, or really new, or only with this artist. I couldn't. Maybe as I go through, I didn't really go through this whole entire article either. But if you're just listening and you can't actually see, the picture that I'm looking at, that's pretty much, it's like their background, and as you scroll down, it actually disappears. But it's like their header background essentially, and this header picture has four people, four white individuals, two men and two women, stagnant, staggered, so man, woman, but they all have a white dot over their eye, one of their eye. I mean, I guess it's somewhat of a white, it's gray, but it's a circle over the eye. Why? Like, why? What's the reasoning on that? And then the arrow. And as you go on, and BBC is the type, and this is BBC, by the way. BBC is all about diversity. So I'm kind of stuck on why they're only using a really old traditional photo of what some people would say that's zero diversity in there. Even as you scroll down. And I'm going to read through the article. I just really want to highlight these photos. Like, it don't really make sense unless you're trying to, like, point a finger in some way. Again, you got two white ladies, it looks like at a grocery station and an aisle full of canned foods. One is looking at canned foods, and the other one looks like maybe looking at maybe her purse that's in the grocery cart where the kid usually sits. She's sitting just a little bit behind the other lady that's looking down at the cans, with her hands on the cart and the purse and the child seat spot. And once again, one of their eyes has the circle, and then rather than a red arrow on the very bottom, kind of like I think a triangle flush with the bottom of the picture that goes just a little bit up, like maybe a third of the way of the picture. That was the first picture. Like, what's the purpose of that? I can't. I'm at the moment. I'm with the eye. I can think of. There's actually a couple of reasons why making someone one-eyed, essentially. I'll get to that here in a second, and I don't think that's their intention, which means that they weren't really looking into what the one eye really represents. But again, the red, instead of having a red triangle at flush at the bottom, they took an aisle, one of the aisles of foods, right? The shelvings, and the middle shelf between the top shelf and the bottom shelf, they essentially highlighted in red, and so it streaks behind the lady standing there in front of the cans, and that row of cans on that shelf are all in red, and to the shelvings. Why? What's the purpose? I mean, I'm not really sure. It's just really, maybe that's the whole purpose, is to catch people like me and they want to talk about it. I just there's something deeper going on here about this. Meaning, there's a meaning behind. I guarantee there's a meaning to them, or whoever that identifies these photos. Oh, and then now we have two Asians looking at something. I can't even explain what. But once again, the red, instead of like, it's like an offset triangle that meets the flush of the bottom right hand and bottom corner, and it extends almost 2/3 of the way to the leftover of the photo. And it climbed, and it on the right hand, the flush of it goes up to about halfway, and it's a triangle shape, so it goes down at an angle to meet the bottom. But again, you got two people with and this time it looks like Chinese. They could be Koreans, but I'm not really positive. Sometimes the nose is kind of a giveaway. It kind of looks like more of like a Korean nose, or even the shape of the face. But they're rounded, so but the way the nose is shaped, I'm gonna guess Korean, but they could be northern Chinese. But again, their eyes are. One of them is blocked with the white dot. Why? What is the purpose of this? Well, then we got another photo. Except with the, rather than not a red blotted spot on the photo, essentially, or triangle spot, it tends to be. This time it's like a triangle that's not a triangle. I don't know how to explain this. It's like a irregular shaped rectangle. So it looks like it would almost be a triangle, but instead of reaching all the way to the end of one side of the photo to one other, it dips down straight. So one side's way higher than the other. But what's interesting, again, everybody's eye in this photo, that at least in the forefront, their eyes are blocked. Again, all white people. This time, it's like a photo of a whole bunch of people, like at a shopping place. It looks like they're all waiting in lines. A huge grocery place. And it looks like they spent a little bit more time blotting all eyes. Not just the people in the forefront, but a lot of the people in the background. And again, rather than a triangle shape, it's an offset rectangle, and it's blue this time again. It just streaks across the picture. And again, the majority, it looks like in the picture, are white Western European people. And that's it for the photo. And that's from BBC for photos, which is interesting because for a group of people who talk about diversity so much, you'd think they would have put a little bit more. Well, all these photos, if you can tell, they're all old photos. The only photo that's not Western people is just happened to be the Asian people. It almost looks like they're wearing a hairstyle of a European style, but wearing Asian clothes that have been, I guess you could say, transformed due to European art of fashion art, because European fashion art definitely it changed the fashion of the world and how to wear clothes. That's for certain. But all right, let me move on because it's been almost 10 minutes of me just talking about really poorly set photos and giving really no depth to what this actually means. What the meat paradox reveals about moral decision making. That is the header to this article. It's the name. This is written by Julia Shaw, February 2019, on the 6th. So I'm going to read here. Money changes our relationship with morality. The very existence of money, along with complex business and distribution channels, acts as a buffer between ourselves and the origin of our product. They can make us behave in ways that are deeply unethical. You know, to start off with a sentence like that in the beginning, I just want to point out, it's pretty lame to start something off. It's pretty much just, it makes it sound absolute with zero facts. But I want to point out to people, money is just a word for resources, or a way to acquire other resources. But in general, it's a resource to collect other resources. So it's kind of impossible to get away from that, since everybody needs resources. To talk about how it affects his relationships, morality, well, of course it's going to. Especially when you're having kids. You're going to still be as charitable as you were when you were 19 and didn't have kids, and now you're in your mid-30s and you have 3 kids and you need to feed them? No, you're most likely not going to just spend your money or help your friends out on just stupid things. You're going to be very conservative about it, and you're going to spend your money wisely so you can make the most of it for your children. So I don't understand and then this can make us behave in ways that are deeply unethical. Have you ever noticed when people are starving how unethical they can become? Do you realize how unethical people can become when they don't have much, or when they're like at the brinks of death? Sometimes it just makes me wonder if these people really sit there and take the time and really think about this stuff, instead of just having something cross their mind and they're like, oh, I'm gonna write something up about it, and somehow get published, edited, published. I don't know. All right, I'm gonna move on. I can prove it to you. Do you think animal torture is evil? And do you also eat factory farm meat? Many people who would strongly disagree in principle with animal cruelty also eat meat that have been raised in terrible conditions. What did you just prove to me? I mean, I'm kind of confused. What did you just prove to me? I don't understand what animal torture is either. Like, compared to what? Like, compared to how probably this person is okay with infanticide? You know, I mean, like, or how people treat children that think that they can use them as like a token for the court system to essentially pull money from someone that's actually acquiring more resources than the other, to give to someone who can't gain those resources as easy. Somehow that's just beneficial, huh? Alright, let me move on here. I know this myself. I try to eat mostly plant-based diet, but like the majority of people in most Western countries, I do not eat this diet exclusively. By reframing the same issue and adding a price tag, we make some acts seem less offensive. We can't see them firsthand, so they feel like they are unrelated to us. All we can see is the price. Those are really interesting things. It's like when someone just says, well, all you're being told is that you'll have a great career. So as long as you're always being told the woman is having a great career, you should feel it's okay to kill babies. Sorry, everybody's talking about no, I'm not sorry, but I'm probably going to throw caveats, something about things that are happening outside of their scope, like out of their peripheral vision. Like, they just can't see that they're more worried about fucking animals than babies. These types of people who are willing to write up stupid shit like this, because I guarantee this person you will never find anything written up about abortion. And just for shits and giggles, I'm just going to look it up. Julia Shaw. right there. Evidence-based, medicine-based story time. Founding London Memory Research, Julia what? A London memory researcher. And this is back in 2016. She's a psychological scientist. So why don't you just call her a psychological scientist instead of call her a memory researcher? Okay, Julia Shaw, post of research. Linking the bricks and vote. Who people reject the advice of experts linking the bricks and vote with Donald Trump's presidential campaign in the U.S. Near Trump's campaign tactics and one. Far beyond the comparatively sensible arguments of political sovereignty. Brexit count. Blah blah blah. All right, so I think I can. I'm gonna read this real quick to you. Sorry, I should have done this here again. But finally, London memory researcher Julia Shaw post on Sky AM Mind guest blog explores what research says about why people reject the advice of experts. Linking the Brexit vote with Donald Trump's presidential campaign in the U.S., our pro-Brexit politician mirrored Trump's campaign tactics and won. Far beyond the comparatively sensible argument of political sovereignty, Brexit campaigners won with anti-immigration and invective, lies, and misguided attempts to reclaim the past that never was. She concluded that an effective campaign needs more than a logic and evidence. They also need a strong appeal to fundamental emotion. Now, what's interesting is that alright, no, I'm gonna see from what I was about to say. But anyways, assume Shaw is correct that evidence must be accompanied by emotional appeal when trying to sell a point of view. The implications are vast. They are obviously relevant to the anti-abortion campaign with its pictures of struggling babies, shaming of women who seek abortion, and medicurious. No, is that? I'm just sorry. Stop that flow for a second. Mendacious. When they're not telling the truth, posturing about protection of women's health. But that's what pro-choice don't talk about is truly is the health of what happens when you're on the table when you're getting an abortion, nor do they really talk about what happens years after when you get an abortion, nor do they talk about the fundamental body changes that you automatically start going through within the first couple weeks of being pregnant. I mean, there's things that are already happening that when you pretty much stop that, they're just not talking about any of that. At the same time, they don't even talk about the women that die on the table due to complications. It's not like a huge number, but still, it's a number that they just never talk about. But emotion is also essential to the pro-choice forces. That's a point Vox Crockett emphasizes in the post about how personal storytelling has become a key tactic for abortion rights activists. Women are talking about how abortion has benefited their lives and goals, including the goal of starting a family once they are ready to. They're saying that they don't regret the decision, that they're tired of being silenced and shamed for it, she says. So, who's this right here? I don't know. Oh, I think it's someone who works for Vox. So what they're saying. So I think this is kind of an argument against this argument, to some extent, I guess. Um, but I think at this point it's safe to say that this Julia Shaw, she's is for pro-abortion. She's okay with killing babies. Um, I think that's important to understand when reading stuff behind people, is understanding their deep uh, mindset about how they view humans psychologically. It, Psychologically, it gives you an understanding on their bias straight up about human beings. I believe if human beings are okay with at any point a human being murdered, not out of self-defense, I think it's safe to say that there's something deeply wrong with them. Like there's deeply trauma. There could be brain damage. There could be like they were born not functionally, their brain not functionally like working properly. Because it's pretty common for you to not feel okay with people being murdered, essentially. So, and what's interesting enough too is just to point that out is most people who it seems to go into these fields for psychology and trying to understand the memories and stuff like that. Well, there's a reason why they go into it, because they themselves are dealing with such problems that they're trying to find a way to deal with those problems, and they find that this way they think that this way is the actual way, rather than what's happening is that they're taking their problems and they're essentially like spreading them on to everybody else, because they're taking this weird idea of a world that they created out of this trauma that they're not dealing with, and they deal with this trauma by having this imaginary world essentially around them, and they somehow like project it on everything. It's kind of like how I always say politicians, that when they point their finger and they say, hey, that person's blah blah blah, you can pretty much guarantee they themselves are doing that. Maybe not right then and then, but they have done it or are currently doing it. It's a weird thing that people do when they project, especially when they have no more arguments left. They'll just personally attack, but yet when they're personally attacked, they're actually revealing themselves. It's quite interesting. But I've been off on that for a while now, and I barely even got that far into this BBC article, so I want to start going back through this BBC article that was written by that Julia Shaw, who is perfectly fine with abortion. So, I just want to point that out. She seems like animal torture is evil, but yet she's wants to talk about how the implications are vast, which I'm going to assume that and how the shaming of women who seek abortions and stuff, and the mendacious, the lies that are posturing, which is, if that's true, point them out. You wrote this up, point it out. Since you're such a great writer, write it out. Write all the lies that they've done. It's interesting that they just never do that. They always just point finger, point finger, point finger. Okay, where's the facts? Like, where is it? I know you just said it to me 10 times, so there must be a Gosnell film showing all the lies of the pro-lifers. Like, somehow the pro-lifers are watching women just die, keel over from having babies. Like, where's that film at? But there's a film called Gosnell that shows how baby killers, there's people out there, I guarantee, they get off on killing babies. They get off on killing. And if they could do this legally, they're going to. Isn't that great? Legalized killing for serial killers. Alright, I'm going to move on here. Alright, I'm going to slightly start back over what I read. I know this myself. I try eat mostly plant-based diet, but like the majority of people in Western countries, I do not eat this diet exclusively. I'm stuck This person is hates Western people, hates Western European, traditional European people. Like, if you're at all a smidgen tone lighter than an Indian, than a South American, a Hispanic, you're probably hated by this person. If you have straight blonde hair, you're probably not liked by this person. I don't know. Like, she's probably gonna have bias against you in some way. Like, the fact is that all I'm saying is that she acts like Western people are the only people who eat meat. And that is the most absurd thing. There's cannibals in Africa. Cannibals. Maybe I'll have to explain what cannibals are to this person, to Julia Shaw. Cannibals are people who eat other human beings. I think that's not a plant-based diet. Maybe that meat derives from eating a lot of plant foods, but the cannibal sure not eating a salad with that fresh meat. Alright, we're continuing on here. By reframing the same issue and adding a price tag, we make some acts, some far less offensive. We can't see them firsthand, so they feel like they're unrelated to us. All we can see is the price. Yeah. All you see is your echo chamber. Why, when we understand why we can't meet that what we know has been raised in poor conditions, we can begin to understand many other forms of behavior that conflict with deeply held moral principles. Wow, this person just is so awesome at farming. Is so great at it. You can guarantee they're running all their own dairy and chicken and just the meat farms. You can guarantee they're running 10 of them and they look pristine. Pristine. They actually convince the animal to take its own life. That's how awesome they are at taking care of these animals. Alright, internal conflict. According, that's why I'm having an internal conflict and want to continue to read this damn article. These people, man. Internal conflict. According to the psychologists Brock Bestine and Steve Logan, I don't know how to pronounce that name, who do research on the topic of Australia. The meat paradox is a psychological conflict between people's dietary preference for meat and their moral response for animal suffering. Wow. The suffering of animals. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Those 9-month-old baby. Who cares, right? Who cares? It's the shaming of the women that's so bad. not the fact that they were told umpteen times, if you spread your legs, there's a chance. Now, if they didn't have good parents to teach them that, I'm fine to point the blame when the kids are less than, they're out of the house, and if they're not out of the house and they're still with their parents, yeah, I'm fine with blaming the parents in that case. But in the cases they're not, it is the woman's fault. Pick and choose a good man. That's all you gotta do. It's actually really easy. You know how you do it? If the man wants to have sex with you right away, you can pretty much guarantee he's not a good man. He might have potential 20 years down the line after he learned his lesson. But in the moment, that's what you're looking for, not 20 years down the line, when you have to go through hell and back just to have now a good relationship 20 years later. And most people, you think you're going to last 20 years when you're having a bad relationship? No. They argue that bringing harm to others is inconsistent with the view of one other as a moral person. As such, meat consumption leads to negative effects for meat eaters because they are confronted with a view of themselves that is unfavorable. How can I be a good person and also eat meat? Oh my God. I don't think I've ever thought, ever once, when I've killed umpteen chicken or a few deer in my life. I mean, when I was growing up, I had neighbors that would raise chicken every year, and we would harvest them. And essentially, the neighborhood and people outside the neighborhood that would know about it would buy up these chickens from my neighbors. It was kind of like a side hobby and money for them. And I tell you what, it's actually a lot of work for a little bit of profit. I mean, you barely make out. After you consider your time as money. Never once did I go, when I was cutting the arteries around the neck without cutting the throat itself, so I could let the chicken essentially breathe and allow itself to bleed out longer. Now, is it going through more pain? I don't know. I know. I always thought when I did it, I mean, it sucked. And I would hate to have that happen to myself. You know, being flipped into a funnel and have my head popping out this little hole and allow essentially my blood to flow right out of me. But then I began to think, well, I know one thing is I've cut the throats of chickens too, and that seems way worse. And so, I mean, what do you call suffering? Some people are just straight up will cut the head off, which is not really the best way about harvesting a chicken, because you want the blood to come out as much as possible. But there's people who do that, and I don't know, is that really more suffering than just having the arteries essentially drain out, and then essentially the lack of blood flow creates the lack of like oxygen, which is essentially the bird sooner or later just it like gets knocked out. You know, it's the loss of blood. You pass out and then you're dead. You sleep away. You sleep till you expire. Essentially, and I mean I don't know. Like I never thought of that as ever, and I never will. Like I can't see that me being I needed to eat, and I helped a whole bunch of people eat at a cheap price, essentially cheaper than if they would have went and got a whole chicken at a store nearby. And at the same time, it's locally grown, fed, locally grown. It's just all local. I mean, it just. Again, what do you consider an unfavorable treatment to these animals? I just don't understand now. Like, they don't really compare how you really should just go ahead and slaughter your animals for food. I mean, maybe there's a list that I don't know about that these like meat farms and stuff have to follow to essentially kill their animals, to harvest them. But I mean, I just don't. In reality, the only part that I care when it comes to treating animals is the actually part of letting them grow. And the reason why I only care about that part is the better environment that animals are put in, their meat is more enriched. Their meat essentially is able to get more healthy. And I would say that passes down to us when we eat that meat. So I think the less trauma that they got to go through as they grow will really help out with bettering meat and stuff, and maybe even density of meat. But in the end of killing them, I can care less, pretty much. That death lasts I can guarantee less than, in most of these cases, probably less than a half hour. And I don't know about you, but if you looked at the world, death usually is a far more slower and gruesome pain than a half hour of, or even faster than that. Sometimes it's a second, blow to the head, and boom, you're done. I'm going to keep on moving on here. It's going to turn out to be kind of a long podcast. This moral conflict doesn't just threaten our enjoyment of eating meat, it threatens our identity. In order to protect our identities, we establish habits and social structures that make us feel better. Meat eating is tied to social customs, so that holidays are defined as a time to feast on flesh with friends and family. Some people may also use it as a signal of masculinity. Oh my God! She's also a man-hater. And I guarantee if you ask if she hates men, she would try to disagree, but at any point in time she will always link masculinity, I guarantee, to something evil. I guarantee she'll always imply that masculinity can be linked to something evil, claiming that it helps to define someone a real man, or that we humans evolved as a super predator who were meant to eat meat. Yeah, we are meant to eat meat. This is why our teeth are set up the way it is. It's also the reason why our jawlines are really squared and solid. Well, again, I guess I'm talking to people who have that, because the people who don't have that, watch what they eat. They eat a lot of soft food. All right, unless they're sucking fucking dick, their jawlines they're gonna be sloped. Their face is gonna slope down, and I guarantee they're gonna have like a lot of crooked, really bad teeth, unless they started off as a kid eating and chewing food, and they started off eating soft food and they never really went to eating hard food. I guarantee they're gonna have a whole litany of facial structure that's sumped, and teeth are not right. They're probably snoring a lot. There's a whole problem to it. These people just have no understanding biology. Biology changes to environment. The environment just a couple hundred years ago called for us to eat essentially dense, tough food. It's only been really recently that we have gone to soft foods. I mean, there's so much carb-based foods. It's crazy. It's soft. It's like people just eat straight up bakery and don't even know what meat is anymore. All right, let me move on here. And despite animal products being linked to all kinds of poor health outcomes, some people task. Oh my God! I'm going to show you with the lack of meat before this video is done. Some people, malnourishment, I'm telling you, is bad. It's bad. The kids, it's bad. It should be treated as child abuse. Some people task when we say that we want to go vegan. Oh, I shouldn't say task. Tisk. Some people tisk. When say that we want to go vegan, how will you get enough protein? And friends start forgetting to invite us to dinner parties. Oh, are you gonna fucking answer that? How are you gonna get your enough proteins? I'm just starting to learn that a protein shake sometimes isn't actually enough, depending on who you are, how old you are, and how your body's even absorbing proteins or just vitamins in general. Some people are saying 20 to 30 grams a day is where you kind of just want it on average. And go ahead and look at most things. Unless you eat a big fucking fat steak every day, it's really hard to actually get that amount every day. And then people who are body lifters and stuff, or people who are just working out and trying to want to build up a little bit of muscle, you got 50, 60, 70 grams. And you're talking about, you got a protein shake, you got meat or eggs. You're packing in as much protein stuff. You're not going to find that in You're not going to find that in seaweed. You're not going to find that in vegetables. You're not going to find that in fruit. I mean, unless you're eating huge amounts of bowls of like vegetables and beans and stuff. But then nobody's not talking about the lentil or whatever it's called. I mean, at that point, there's stuff in beans, there's stuff in vegetables that is too much for humans. I mean, this is why there's supposed to be a balance. These people are just, at the same time, you're never going to get creatine. And there's like a few other things I can't even think of because they're like so new on finding and them talking about how important they actually are to us. But there's like more stuff that you find they're finding in meat that you never find in vegetables. And it's no wonder why people who have these like really strict vegetable diets, they lack muscle mass, they lack bone density, and they talk so fucking stupid. Or I should say they write so fucking stupid. Because I know I talk stupid sometimes. Alright. Some people may also use it. Okay, I'm going to pass that up again. And despite animal products being linked to all kinds of poor, blah, 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 and forget the... I read that. Okay. With many decisions, including the choice to eat meat, the excuse we might are largely post hoc after we have chosen to indulge, we just to justify why the behavior was okay. No, I don't think anybody sits there and eats a burger at fucking Burger King goes, oh, I gotta justify why I ate that animal. Oh my god, Burger King, why did you do that to me? Alright, and why it is okay to do it again. Now I want some Burger King. And we need the excuse or else we feel like bad people. No, I don't think people need excuses. People are hungry and they choose to fucking eat. And it smells good and they eat it and it tastes good. And they want more later on. Oh my god. This person either hates food or hates food. I don't know. This person just hates. They like have a deck of cards, there's random fucking words and shit, random phrases, and they just like pick them out today. What to hate today? Shuffle the deck. I'm gonna read on here. When we say one thing but do another, or hold inconsistent beliefs, psychologists call it cognitive dissonance. The term was developed by Leon Fistinger? I have no idea if that's how you pronounce the name. Leon Fistinger. Alright, I'm going to move on. I'm sorry if I just totally destroyed your name on that. Right. Who first used it in 1957? The class experiment in this field was published by Fistinger and James Carlsmith in 1959, and it is, they asked what happens to a person's private opinion if he is forced to do or say something contrary to that opinion. In their first experiment, they had 71 men complete 2 tasks. First, the men were asked to put 12 round wooden spools into a tray, empty the tray, and put spools back in the tray repeatedly for a half an hour. I'm confused by it already, but let me keep on reading here. Then the participants were given a board containing 48 squares wooden pegs. They were asked to turn each peg by a quarter turn clockwise, then another quarter turn repeatedly again for a half an hour. While doing this, a researcher watched and wrote things down. They were intentionally boring tasks, really boring. Although the participants, though it was performance that was being measured, it was actually what came next that interested the researchers. After 2 boring tasks, participants were taken back into the waiting room. They were told that the person sitting there was the next participant. For 1/3 of the participants, they simply sat down without anything else being mentioned. For the other 2/3, however, the researchers asked whether they would lie to the next participant. They would even be paid for their lie. Half were told that they would be paid $1 for their lie, and the other were told that they would be paid $20 for their lie. You know, it's nice when people point out why welfare is the fucking problem. When you're just giving people fucking free stuff, they will do immoral shit to get free stuff. We are creatures that are constantly striving to collect resources. This is why there has been groups of people and philosophers that have aimed at trying to curb the gratification of human beings, have tried to set preventative measures, to set up guidance on how to understand these urges as being a human being is no different than an animal, except that we have ability to have conscious awareness of our actions and knowing what they're going to do in the future, like what these actions are going to cause. It's a very unique skill for us. But one of the problems is we still want infinite resources like animals. Like how a cat or a dog tends to eat, not stop eating and eating and eating until their fucking gut is bursting and they're shitting while they're still eating. Like they're creatures or animals, or it's just the way that biology is set up. It's not meant to have an infinite amount of, or seemingly infinite amount of resources, or organisms will act on it, and will act like as it should if there is infinite resources. Just gobble it all up. So I'm really like, it's interesting because I guarantee this is the type of person too. If we were going to look around for it, I guarantee we would find something that would point out how mass immigration is morally right, or how wrong it is to not allow immigrants in your country because you are an immigrant. Ugh. No, my families were settlers. Those are two different fucking things. One came here when there was nothing and started something. Immigrants come here because there's something already started and was sacrificed for. Alright. Little rant. A lot of this was a rant. When they said yes, the researchers then handed them a piece of paper, instructed them to make that point that were written on it. Let me reread that. I'm going to start over. They were even paid for the lie. Half were told that they were paid $1 for their lie. And then the other half were told that they would be paid $20 for their lie. Oh, I would be pissed. I would be pissed if I was one of those people that got $1 and then I heard that one of these people got $20 back in the 1950s. Oh, oh! $20, that's some good money back then. It's like a whole week's worth of pay or something. $1 is like a couple hours or something probably, but or a full day for something. Like this, $20. I know back then was that would have filled up your car for the whole entire month. All right. Which, yeah, he says, and the other half were told that they were paid $20 for their lie, which in the 1950s was a lot. When they said yes, the researchers then handed them a piece of paper and instructed them to make the points that were written on it. It was very enjoyable. I had a lot of fun. I enjoyed myself. I was very interested. It was intriguing. It was exciting. So these people made it sound like it was so awesome to sit here and turn these stupid, boring tasks that were just didn't make any sense, didn't produce any value. What the researchers really wanted to know was the impact this lie and the compensation for it would have on participants rating the task. They wondered whether the participants would actually come to think that they enjoy being boring tasks just because they told someone else it was fun, and how would being paid influence this? Who do you think rated the experiment as the most enjoyable in the control group? Who had not been asked to lie rated the task as boring and said they would not do it again. The participants paid $20 also rated the task negatively. However, the participants paid $1 rated the experiment as far more enjoyable than the other two groups. Were more likely to say that they would sign up for participate in similar experiments in the future. What happened? Being paid $1 was probably not even seen by the participants as a significant incentive to lie. According to the experience cognitive dissonance, why did I say that it was enjoyable when it wasn't? Surely not for the measly $1, since the participants could not go back and change their behavior, or unparticipants in the experiment, the option available to them was to change their belief. It must be actually been enjoyable for the $20 condition. This was not necessary, as they could explain their behavior as results of the hefty and easy and financial incentive. This was the first of many experiments to show we often bring our beliefs in line with our behaviors, and that money can change the way that we do this. In 1962, the Festinger further formalized his idea. He stated that although we believe ourselves to be generally consistent in our behaviors, beliefs, and attitudes, sometimes we go rogue. This inconsistency he called dissonance, while consistency he has called consonance. Consonance. Consonance, an agreement or compatibility between opinion and action. Consonance. He summarized his cognitive dissonance theory as follows. The existence of dissonance, being psychological uncomfortable, will motivate the person to try to reduce the dissonance and achieve consonance. When dissonance is present, in addition to trying to reduce it, the person will actively avoid situation and information which would likely increase the dissonance. That's pretty interesting. I like some of this stuff right here. But it's interesting. She talks about dissonance, and she distances her views on how animals are treated and how human beings are treated, and how shaming is more worse than animals. Just like, or just the fact that she wrote about how shaming of females is worse than killing babies. It's just. But I did notice that it didn't really, even though what they were talking about for being paid off, it didn't quite go the way that I thought that they were talking about, but it pretty much still remains the same. People will lie about things just to come to here. At the same time, they will make up lies to convince other people to come, because it does make people money. So, for instance, if a business can convince you to move to America on like a visa or like a H-1B visa, and be like, look at all this great things that we'll give you for coming, and then when you finally come, they're giving you a very low wage. At the same time, they didn't really give you that apartment complex that sounded like it was going to be awesome, right next to a beach with like trees all around you or something like that. Or it's the package deals that are somewhat sold to convince you, and when you accept those lies for that money and that. And at the same time, you're like paid to lie, so you try to convince other people to move here, so you get like a bonus or something. Like people, this is resource. Resources have a incredible ability to create incentives, and the more resources at your fingertips, the most likely you're going to be. The more ability that you have for resources. Oh no, I can't even hold that argument. Well, the fact is, resources you acquire, they're yours. They shouldn't be taken away just because someone over there is complaining about you having more money or more resources. And the fact that you can convince him to go work or her to go work for a certain wage shouldn't be really the problem either. The problem should be the person who's going to accept that and can't make money on their own without accepting that money. That's really the real problem here. on that. But anyways, dissonance is a pretty packaging. He further explained that just a hunger motivates us to find food to reduce our hunger. Cognitive dissonance motivates us to find situations to reduce dissonance. For meat eating, there are two ways to do this. We can change our behaviors or change the beliefs. We can stop eating meat or come up with reasons why eating is morally okay. Well, that's the thing. I don't think, and I have never once go, is it morally or immorally right to eat meat? No. Well, I'm like, I'm hungry. I smell meat. Or I see an animal and I'm like, oh man, that fucking back quarter on that nice big cow, that nice Angus beef cow. I bet that real nice and juicy meat right now. I don't understand. Like, I think really morals really only work between human beings. I mean, if you have more feelings for an animal or feelings like that for an animal, I mean, I get that because human beings have the ability to empathize. We have the ability to empathize with animals because that's how it was helped to. That's what helped us hunt them. We could step into their shoes, quote unquote, and by stepping into their shoes, like empathizing with animals, we were able to essentially track them down, hunt them, and get ourselves fed. I mean, that's I can guarantee this woman has some major childhood issues, and this is why animals. Oh my God! All right. In addition to our, In addition to our own attempts to justify meat eating, advertising and marketing can make it easier for us to do so. According to the research of sociologist Liz Guarhalls on images of animals in popular culture, one way to make meat eating seem acceptable to disassociate it from the animal it came from. No, just like I talked about chicken, just like I'll kill a turkey and be like, look at this turkey. And I call people turkey. Hey, turkey. Like, I don't want I'll kill a pig or a cow. I'll cut it up myself, or a deer, cut it up myself, gut it. I'll do everything. Get myself full blood. And I'd cook the meat right then and there and eat it. I don't get these people have never fished in their entire life. I swear, these are the people who have, like, they never even lived to see a cockroach or something. I don't get it. It had some real interesting thing happening in your childhood. Lack of a father, that's for certain, or a very weak father. Like she was talking about how manly it is for eating meat. Well, she must not have that man who was in her life eating meat. All right. One way to make meat eating acceptable is to associate it from the animal it came from. Halls, however you say that, I'm going to say Halls, argue that we do this by transforming animals which are loved into meats. No, which are eaten, so that the concept of animals and meat seem distinct and unrelated. Yeah, people are just working so hard on that for the last 100 years to convince you that the meat that they're selling didn't come from animals. No, this meat didn't come from animals. You'll feel morally okay for eating it. You won't get guilt trip for eating this. It says guilt-free on the packaging. We call it veal instead of baby cow. Oh my God! Ham instead of pig. Game instead of hunted wild animal. Because it's so quick to call it game, and it's like a video game. I'm going out hunting. It's game. It's game. Like, what? Oh my goodness. And I don't care. Let's call it baby cow. How about while I'm eating, I'm like, oh, I love this baby cow. It's so good. It's so good. We picked our dead animals in pretty we pack our dead animals in pretty packages, physically, verbally, and conceptually distancing ourselves from real origins of our food. Yeah, I'm just sure the packagings that they put them in just make it so fucking rainbow special awesomeness that just has it just no, you can't even see the meat actually. It's just so marketed to so you just have no idea what you're buying now. It just says I don't even know. It just says cow. It doesn't say cow actually. It just has a cartoon of a cow or something. I don't even know like what the. Go into a store, and I guarantee on the meat package, it's gonna be a clear packaging with a sticker on it that has a little foam piece underneath it. That's holding it, and then a little piece that's in between the foam and the meat to kind of like. Give it a little aeration in between the meat and the styrofoam packaging, and then the plastic that's on top that's wrapped around with usually a little sticker that shows the section of where the meat came from and the price and then the weight and then the Newton weight and then usually a little name of the store that it came from. That's about it. And you're telling me that's just somehow is just some pretty fucking package. These people are just, they live in a fucking fantasy world, or they have one very interesting store that they walk into. Alright, when looking at a commercial depiction of meat, she found that this was done in two different ways. The first was showing meat as sanitized, plastic wrapped, chopped in pieces, making it hard to think that it came from an animal at all. How is that? Oh my god. I think it's up to the parents to go, hey, this is coming from an animal. Are you interested in seeing how that's done? Making it hard to think that it came from an animal at all. The second, hard to do with cutification, making the animal cutter and then cuter than they actually are. The second had to do with cutification, making the animal cuter than they actually are, which is what I was saying with the cartoon cow. More than anywhere, this is adopted as strategy part of Asia, such as Japan. Advert their use was ethologist Conrad Lorenz referred to as the kind chichima, baby schema, big eyes, petite, round features like we might expect in a children's book. It might give the impression that meat comes from happy, imaginary animals. Both of these serve the distance from reality of animal cruelty. I encourage everybody to go check out Japan and how they treat their cows. I've never seen any best treatment in the world. It's the greatest treatment in the world. They treat them better, I swear, than their own citizens. It's insane. Kobe beef is the best beef ever. Like, you want meat that you could pretty much like you could like heat it up with a hair dryer and it just like melts in your fucking mouth. It's really good fucking meat. And the way that they just pamper the cows, they just like, I swear they don't even let them walk around, and if they do, they just let them walk on a treadmill for like 5 minutes. But I mean, they literally like they brush them every day, they talk to them, they wash them every day. I mean, these are the most treated, awesomest cows ever. And they want to talk like it's just the way that they are. Everything that they fucking make over there, they make it big eyes and petite. Why? Because they themselves are petite. And why are the big eyes? Because they like to essentially embody the Western eyes of a woman. Believe it or not, they like to appropriate the white woman's eyes in their art. Because it's sexy, it's a turn on, it's a sexual attraction essentially. And it works for the anime. So they do it with many other things. These people are just insane. Either these people are fucking insane, or I'm insane. But I know I'm actually insane. So these people must be really fucking insane. This isn't just relevant to me eating. I'm sorry. This isn't just relevant for me eating. When we turn animals or humans into objects, therefore avoid the discomfort caused by knowing about the suffering behind the consumer goods. We make it easier to be cruel. The same processes we see with meat, we see with all kinds of other morally unacceptable but common human behaviors that have to do with money. I mean, you mean like how people are automatically told that someone wearing a MAGA hat is like a Nazi, so it's just okay to walk up to someone and punch them because they're just an object of the MAGA hat? I mean, I don't understand. I don't understand. Remember how I was talking about cognitive dissonance? Why does people write about this type of shit when they could be taking what they know about this and apply it towards people who are actually being maimed, people who are being attacked, people who are having their lives threatened? You know, I just don't understand that. Like, why can't you take these concepts and apply them consistently, not just to animals, but to humans? How about that? Try that to humans. And you might just realize that humans tend to be a little bit better than animals. They tend to be a little bit more enjoyable in the long run. Normally you don't see an 80, 90, 100-year-old person with an animal going, oh, I just love my animal. No, they're like really happy-go-lucky socializing people, to be honest. Or they're like wheelchair bound and can't even move their head. But beyond that, it's one or the other. It's if they're still moving about, they tend to be really sociable people, especially if they can talk and stuff too. Well, they like socialize for like 2 hours, and then they'll sleep for like 3 hours, and then like will eat for like 45 minutes, and then they'll sleep for another 3 hours, and then that's pretty much little spurts of being up, using that energy, and going back to sleep, waking back up to use that little bit of energy that was built up. It's interesting, at least from looking from a distance, seeing it, observing it. It's what it looks like. It's gonna be if I get to even more close, that's gonna be interesting. I hope so, but we'll see. All right, we're gonna continue to read on here. This is actually long, but we're almost done. Just a little bit more. So here, bear with me. This is one of my longest podcasts. I didn't think it was gonna turn out this way, but I kind of actually like them when they turn out like this. But anyways, let me continue. This isn't just irrelevant for me eating. When we turn animals or humans into objects and thereby avoid the discomfort caused by knowing about the suffering behind consumers' goods, we make it easier to be cruel. The same process we see with meat, we see with all kinds of other moral, unacceptable, but common human behaviors that have to do with money. We know the poverty causes great suffering, yet instead of sharing our wealth, we buy another pair of expensive shoes. We fundamentally disagree with the idea of child labor or adults working under horrible conditions, but keep shopping at discount stores. We stay in the dark to protect our delicate identities, to maintain the illusion that we are consistent and ethical, sensible human beings. And this consistent effort to reduce cognitive dissonance, we may spread morally questionable behaviors to another. We begin to shape societies in which ways to minimize our discomfort, to not remind us of the inconsistencies. We don't want to constant reminders, and as Bastions and Logans argue, I don't know what that means, though through the process of dissonance reduction, the apparent immorality of the certain behaviors can seemingly disappear. Hypocrisy can flourish in certain social and cultural environments, like the left for certain, like the whole entire left. Like, I mean, you might get a little bit on the right now, but it's like pretty much all on the left. Social habits can cast a veil over our moral conflicts by normalizing behaviors and making them invisible and restraint to change. It's time for revolution in how we talk about human beings, animals, and the planet, acknowledging our own hypocrisies rather than doing mental gymnastics to justify unethical behaviors. We must consider actually changing it. Identifying and addressing even just a few of your guilt-ridden ethical inconsistencies is like likely to make you a happy person and the planet a better place. So I'm kind of confused though. What happens if you have zero guilt and you feel ethically perfect and fine with killing animals to feed yourself? I mean, this person just makes it like absolute. Like, everybody absolutely deals with these moral equivalencies when they're trying to justify eating a fucking burger. Like, I just... if this was a problem with humans, there'd be like a litany of books over the thousands of years talking about how fucking bad it is to eat animals. But it's literally, that's something like new. Like in the last like 60 years or something. It's pretty fucking new. It's amazing that this person just like acts like just suddenly, oh, just because I have like overwhelming feelings to animals rather than human beings, that we should just suddenly force or act like we can. Well, it doesn't talk about being forced, but that we can just pretend that pouring ourselves into another fucking shape of a cup, that we're just going to take that shape. Like, it's crazy. Like, there's a reason on why people all around the world have a different diet, because the environment that we're from traditionally acquired, it didn't require, it essentially made the humans that were in that area eat the resources, or at least consume the resources that were there. So over time, our bodies adapted to those resources. To say suddenly that eating meat is bad for, especially say, northern Western people, is absurd. That's how Western European people survived. There would be no fucking way you'd be able to survive the long winters without eating meat. At the same time, the mass, the amount of muscle mass and energy that is essentially needed to survival in the northern regions like that back 1,000 or 2,000, 10,000 years ago, you were only going to get that energy from meat. You were never going to get that from essentially harvesting fruits and vegetables that are grains. That just, to me, is just insane thinking, to think that you'd be able to. I mean, people, has this person ever seen or heard of the Iceman? I mean, that guy supposedly looks like if you put a football star next to that football star would just, or even like an MMA fighter, that Iceman guy, the way his body was structured, his muscle. I mean, you're talking about a lot of meat, and you're talking about some really harsh environments when you don't have a house to go to, when you don't have a small community to go to, and that's nowadays. People just like, it just amazes me. But I also wanted to point out one last thing. Was all these photos with these little dots. I don't think the person really understands the true meaning behind single eye or one eye. There's actually a deep meaning behind that, a deep art meaning. And it from my recollection, I took like art history, and I like art. And, it's really interesting stuff. It also, a lot of art has to do with psychology and the inner workings of a human being, or at least that individual, and also what the art sees objectively in a sense, but puts it subjectively down. It's their way that they view it, but it's in the most objective way that they can through art, essentially. Picasso, I believe, was that with one of the wars. Is that the World War One or something like that, or the war before that? I can't remember exactly the history around that, but he drew pictures to show like bombs and destruction happening. I think it was to Belgium or something like that. But that's what art people do, is they take things and they kind of like embody what their mind is visualizing or seeing, or what they're trying to understand. And well, with the eye, with the one eye, when the one eye pretty much stands for all seeing. It also like stands for like wealth, power, essentially that type of stuff. So it's really interesting on why they would use such a symbolism in all these photos. Like I don't know who was the photographer or the artist or the graphics designer or whoever you want to call them or whatever you want to call them. I don't think they really understood what this meant, or they did, and that's why they did that. And they only did it on like pretty much white people and then just like 2 Chinese people. Like whoever did this, I swear they hate white people. And these Asian people are appropriating pretty much white people, especially with the hairdos. They have their lovely hairdos. I like that. They look good with them. But it's BPC. Like every photo they have. Look at it. I mean, just even right here. I mean, you already got. It's interesting on how they're talking about Japanese people, but like BBC people, they're like it's. I mean, it's not. You could call it like a quote unquote diverse news site. So for them to really just like pack in a bunch of white photos, it's kind of odd. It's like when they're trying to like make a point, like without actually making it direct. It's like a subliminal message, essentially. I swear. Because I mean, as you can see, it's like you don't see it's just all white people in here. And I guarantee if you start going through all their articles and the other pictures that aren't really explicitly talking about eating meat and how masculine and evil it can be, they're gonna like if they're talking about good things and blah blah blah. I guarantee it'll be just a diverse stuff. Maybe a lack of white people. I don't know. It's just there's like a deep problem in the world right now, and it's a hatred, and it's a hatred that has been brewing up it really has been brewing up probably since the World War II, and World War II war was won and was ended, but the ideology war kept on flourishing. That never actually got. That communism never stopped. That whole ideology, the ideology of victimhood, the victim mentality, how essentially labels are important to identify with, but yet being inclusive is yet important too. But so labels are not. We shouldn't be labeling people. It's so confusing. But that's what I swear. Communism has turned into a religion, and just like all religions, they usually tend to start splitting up in their own little different like ideas of what that religion should be like, and that's what pretty much communism, socialism, that's what they all become. They all become like they start to split off and rogue into their own slight little different variations, and then they all turn around and say that wasn't true socialism. If you like this podcast, please like and subscribe. If you didn't like this podcast, please still like and subscribe. Comment down below for advice, comments, just to say hi, what's up. Thanks for listening. Have a great day. Bye.